So, um, M. Fox Hunter, how long will COVID-19 last under Biden? 6 months. So I've been telling people this for a long time, and there's a movie that I hope everyone will see, and my wife's in the other room, so hopefully I'll remind her to see it at the gym tomorrow. I don't think she finished it. Is Dark City, and I've got a surprise. So definitely, people, please see it because it's going. Not only is it going to be helpful for you to understand this moment in time, but it's going to be helpful for you to understand the cruelty of this moment in time. Dark City is a movie, and it's a science fiction movie. It takes place in some type of a future, but it may not be the future. We don't know. It takes place in this environment where people at 12 o'clock shut down, right? They shut down. That's pretty cool, that effect. They shut down, and then uh, they wake up, and there's somebody else. As soon as that clock strikes, there's these gigantic cogs, shut it down. The cogs stop. Everybody shuts down. And then when people reawake, they're somebody else. And they could be in a completely different room. They could be in a completely different place with a completely different wife or spouse, or they could have gone to sleep at 12 o'clock. They could have been driving a car and they wake up, they wake up forward and their name is something else. They have no recollection of any past. And in fact, they have memories of a past that they never lived. And I don't want to spoil the movie for too much for people, but I call this Dark City because people don't remember what it was like in December anymore. And that's a very important concept because you don't remember what December was of last year was like anymore. You also don't remember what freedom was like. Does that make sense to everybody? You don't remember what you think you do. You think you remember so many things that you don't. And I've tested people on this a lot. I don't even bother testing people on it anymore because it's just too overwhelming for people. And it's gotten to the point that it gets frustrating for me a little bit. So, because I don't want to come across like I'm interrogating people, but essentially, you don't remember the way your life was in December. You remember it was better that you could walk the streets, and you remember that maybe there were more stores on the street, right? But that's about it. Maybe you remember the experience of walking with your dog and that person wasn't wearing a mask, but that's almost probably at this point as much as you remember what it was like. Maybe you remember someone like the pink hat protest, but you remember that kind of as like a washed away Polaroid photograph. And that's what they want. That's what the elites want. That's not going to stop. It's going to be forever. It's going to be forever. And it's going to be a lot worse with these vaccines. It's going to be a lot worse. So that's not going away, man. COVID-19, it doesn't make a difference what they call it. They've already conditioned people to accept it, right? What else is there to talk about? They've already conditioned people to accept it. Not only have they conditioned people to accept it, I call this, I give this a lot of thought. So I've tried to describe this to people. Usually I don't talk about COVID in my log with people because people have difficulty in many different ways, kind of conceptually, with a conceptual framework of what's going on right now. One of the difficulties that people have is that they try and turn and abbreviate complexity into a postcard. So rather than look at a whole system of something, they want to just turn it into a meme of a couple of words and then file it away in their head. This has become a very, very bad thing to help. So it's difficult to resolve what we're going through, and it's difficult to fight a war if people are not don't have the acuity and the intellectual capacity to fight it. And so be careful of those vaccines, whatever. So what's happening is, I'm 54. So when people would offer me a job when I was 20, they'd say, you know what, give me a call tomorrow. Talk it over with your wife, talk it over with your family. Give me a call tomorrow. Let me know if you want the job. 15, 20 years later, it's, you know what, take a few walks around the block, come back, let me know if you want the job. Then maybe a few years after that, and this wasn't me because now I was out of the market, but it was, you know what, give me an hour, think about it for an hour, let me know. These days, people are having to make very complex decisions, very consequential decisions under a great deal of stress and with a great deal of urgency. So but that is also true of information. That's not just about their career or employment or financials, but just everything, every piece of visual information, whatever it is that's entering into your into your mind, you're processing and you're filing it away quicker than you ever did before. You're not aware of it because you don't remember the way your mind used to process data. Maybe if you read something, you'll be able to see that this isn't the way I recall it. It's crazy though. So this is going to be going on forever. Deborah Stem said, is it possible Trump does not want to win, knows he's going to lose, but they're just going through the motion? Well, Trump knows he's not going to win at this point. I mean, I'm sure his people have told him, but he's just a very competitive person. They should have told him 2 years ago. He should have been aware of it. And again, I'll tweet them out. I get sick of kind of retweeting my old tweets. And it pisses people off sometimes, but I do that for a reason. And it's not so I can say, look how right I was, because that's not my point. My point is we all have to come together and see the big picture. We're speaking of the same language. We all have to start, we all have to, where the forces that we're up against, there's a whole bunch of little geeky kids out there and other people that think they're trying to solve the trolley problem. So the stress that the elites have imposed on people throughout the whole world, first it was with climate change and now with this, but now with this, which has much higher immediacy to it, is what I call they have to play two games kind of at once, or they have to do two things at once simultaneously. Number one is the liar's paradox, right? Which is you have to kind of resolve the liar's paradox. I am telling a lie. Well, if I say I'm always telling a lie, then I've got to resolve, is that person telling the truth about it or not? And that type of kind of philosophical forensics, which is very difficult for most people, and these are extremely difficult problems as is, particularly if somebody's not skilled in that type of reasoning. The easier and unfortunate the argument that the entire world is engaged in right now is the trolley problem. So right now, everybody in humanity is having a condition's been imposed upon them in which they have to solve the trolley problem. If you don't know what it is, just Google it rather than me explain it. But everybody has to solve the trolley problem, say what is the acceptable number of deaths. Then they have to go to the front of their classroom on the whiteboard, show them their solution for the problem, and get their unanimous agreement. So now I've got to say, look, I've got to go to the front of the classroom. I've got to draw a picture of the trolley going down the rails and say, look, I'm going to have to kill grandma and 5 other people, but I'll save Uncle Charlie and 20 other people. And you have to get unanimous agreement from the entire classroom that that's the acceptable death toll. And then we have to kill Grammy, but Uncle Chester can stay, right? It's craziness. That's what people are being pushed into. So the only way you can respond to this, the only way you can win this battle is don't allow yourself to participate in it. Don't allow other people to participate in it. The second people start talking about masks, they're already sucked into it and they're useless to you. They're already in the problem. They're already now when they start talking about masks, you know what they're doing? They're in the front of their classroom. You're a kid in that classroom, and they're trying to now explain to you their resolution of the trolley problem. Do you understand? Don't get into that classroom. Don't let them, and you've got to explain this to people. Get out of that classroom. But hopefully that makes sense to everybody, and you can replay it, but I'm probably going to delete all this. But so again, what I'm saying is that person now who's telling you, well, I told you about mass and China, whatever, they're useless anyway, right? But let's just, because then they want to do this all told you so, and they're wrong because they were dealing with very imperfect information. So whatever, but nevertheless, so people today, the problems that they're engaged with is this trolley problem that they're engaged with currently, right? How do we fix this type of thing? They're engaged with that problem. Now they're going to say, well, we should only allow, those type of masks. You'll see a lot of people saying the efficacy of masks and these studies. And those studies are all very flawed in themselves. Even the studies that you like you like their outcomes or you don't like their outcomes, they're all very flawed. You can't allow yourself to be a participant in that. Don't play the trolley problem, and don't be eager to hear somebody else's solution to the trolley problem. People have to get out of it. You will never get out of it. They're going to continue doing this to you every freaking day for the rest of your life. It's never going back the way it was, ever. People got to think about that, because all the conservatives wanted to do was fight over this person, because this person has a history from when they were a kid. Who doesn't? Who here doesn't have a history that they are displeased with themselves about from when they were a kid, right? And sometimes that kid gets caught doing it, and in which case they have to go through a formalized process. And sometimes they get caught under less drastic circumstances, and it's more of a quieter resolution. So, who, right? Show me that person. Ridiculous. But those conservatives are my enemy. Well, they're not my enemy, but they're my adversary. So rather than take it kind of emotionally with them, I just watch how they destroy from within. And it's not just about Ali. So it's really not just stop the steal, but it just shows you we cannot get a solution. We can never go back to the way it was because of all these little stupid squabbles amongst people that are not particularly intellectually gifted. That's the worst part about it. And I can tell because I can always tell by the questions that people ask. I don't even care about people's answers. I don't pay attention to people's answers. I pay attention to the questions. And I just see that people do not have the intellectual effort. You know, when you're going to get into a good dialectical type of interplay with somebody, you've got to be prepared to sweat your mind, and the other person has to be okay with sweating their mind, and that takes a lot of effort. And most people are too intellectually lazy to partake in sweating their mind. So the conclusion to all those conversations is always very operatic, which is like it's ironic. It's just nothing is ever resolved. So when I see a lot of these kind of people, they're not asking the right questions, so they're not getting the right answers, and it's absurd. It's just stupid, and it's just getting stupider. And these are the people that are now standing in the front of the room explaining their resolution to the trolley problem. I sound kind of pissed, right? Troy Biederman, kind of recognize that picture from somewhere, like a celebrity maybe. Masks aren't useless, but they aren't 100% effective. They reduce viral load. See Monica Gandhi. I'm not going to get into it. I'm sorry. I don't care about Monica Gandhi. I don't care about any of these people. I keep an extremely detailed log. And I'm not going to allow you, just as I said before, and hopefully you're here for it, to bring me into your solution for the trolley problem. Does that make sense to everybody? I think Troy Biederman is thoughtful and compassionate in their comment, but I'm not going to allow Troy Biederman to bring me in to see the resolution of their trolley problem. I don't want to be in that room. I don't want to see the resolution, and I'm certainly not going to agree to it. So Jesse Matchy, thank you again so much for being here. I really like that picture. By the way, so masks, no masks, that's not your battle. It's I'm not a participant in this. Look at what the morbidity rate on it is. Look at what the age is, and look at what the comorbidity. I'm an expert. I don't want to get started on it, but there's what's happening is that people like Fauci are being adored by these Pythagorean cosmogenic physicists, and it's an adoration that's a sickness. And again, I call it, Pythagorean cosmogenic, is that it's not science. It's not science. It's absurdity. It's kind of like you're listening to back in 1000 BC or whatever, and they used to talk about how the moons would travel because of the marrow of the earth or something. It's just some type of oddity, and they gave all these kind of mythological notions to science. So it's the same type of absurdity But what he's doing is a common tactic of propaganda, which is he's not saying, none of the reports are saying anything that are outright lies. What they're doing is they're trying to sow discord through confusion. So they want to say things that are in conflict with things that they just said or things that somebody else said. They're doing that deliberately. That's deliberate because they want to sow confusion. You can't participate in it.